time that we try ourselves a little experiment. I've been curious for a long time about how freezing an egg white affects its whipping capabilities in a whiskey sour, or any sour, honestly. Now, I've heard it said for a long time you can freeze egg whites if you end up just needing the yolks for a recipe, and that they'll be fine for whipping. I'm curious to see if they're just going to be just as good, or if the quality suffers. I'm not sure. I think that they're going to be okay. I think that the egg whites may be a little off in flavor because I didn't store them properly, but that's what we're here to find out. I have, and I can't remember why, but for whatever reason I needed 2 egg yolks, but not the whites, and so I ended up saving the whites individually in these little ramekins, or small little portion cups or whatever, and so I'm going to test. I'm going to make 3 different whiskey sours. One I'm going to make standard, just with the egg, separated right then and there. The other one I'm going to make with this egg white that I've been sitting out for. It's been sitting out for a couple hours. Just want to make sure that it's separated, got to room temperature. In fact, it may even whip better because it's going to be warmer than the one coming straight out of my fridge. Last but not least, I have one more in the freezer that I'm going to pull out right now. As you can see, it's just frozen in a little cup right here. And I'm kind of doing this to see, if this does work. Does it matter if the egg's been sitting out for a few minutes or an hour? I'm going to give this the benefit of the doubt and do it last. So presumably it'll be sitting out for about 4 or 5 minutes, give or take. And so I'll see if this works, if you should pull out your eggs. Obviously, you don't always know when you're going to want a certain drink, but if, a party's coming up, or if you know that you're probably going to want a whiskey sour later, then it'll let you know, oh, I got some frozen egg whites, I'll just use one of those. First things first, I already have all the ingredients pre-measured out, except for the egg white itself, so we're going to get started. It's best to crack your eggs on a flat surface, because it's less likely that you're going to drive the shell into the egg, which is going to cause it to, possibly break the yolk, and also you're going to end up with more shell shard that you may or may not have to worry about getting out. I'm going to take that egg yolk. Delicious, flavorless egg. And here's the ingredients. This is just 1 ounce of lemon juice, 2 ounces of bourbon. I went with Maker's Mark because I don't really drink it. This is a good opportunity to use it. And ½ ounce of simple syrup, ice. Drop one in, get a spoon, and crack the other. You may not tell, but when I threw it in, because of all the fractures, it really does separate. And I gotta dry shake this first. So we're gonna take that lovely ice that's got them cracking, put that back in the freezer, and we're gonna dry shake this first. Yeah, I haven't really had anything to drink. I had a cocktail 4 or 5 hours ago. I'm just not feeling it, I guess. All right, so that's looking good. Now, put the ice in there. I am going to be rinsing out the shaker in between uses, and obviously dumping out the ice. So that way, the only variable is the state of the egg white as it goes in. That's looking lovely. I'm not going to bother to garnish this. I could, but this is an experiment, not a taste testing, although it's a taste testing experiment, so maybe I should. Okay, that looks good. Go ahead and grab yourself a ruler, and how deep is it actually? Okay, it's not quite a centimeter, it's probably about 8 millimeters. Yeah, it's nice, thick, foamy, frothy. Not my favorite. Actually, I maybe could use a bit more sugar, less lemon juice. Oh, it's weird. I think it's the bourbon, because this doesn't... I haven't had this in a while. It's not a super present bourbon. I usually actually make my whiskey sours with rye, but that is the benchmark for how the foam should form. Cocktail number 2. This is the egg white that's been sitting out for a couple hours and is completely liquid and room temperature. I'm going to dry shake first this time. Woo! Alright, so far, so exactly the same. If this works, it'll be encouraging. By the way, don't store them like these. You can freeze them in cups like these or in ice cube trays. But then once they're frozen, pop them out, put them in a Ziploc bag, store them that way. And make sure you don't confuse them for frozen lemon juice. So the original one, I said was about 8 millimeters. Oh, this one is actually closer to 4 or 5. It could be maybe I need to just give it a minute, but it doesn't seem to be getting much thicker. Yeah, so maybe freezing it does affect. Although the one that was frozen first is a bit cloudier than this is the normal one. This is the frozen one. It's definitely got a different color to it. So let's go ahead and give it a try. It looks fine. If you handed this to me, I would say, yeah, that looks like a whiskey sour. I'm tasting the Maker's Mark less and less. I don't know if I got too much lemon juice in here or not enough sugar, but I put ½ ounce of sugar and it's frothing up just fine. Too much lemon juice maybe, but well, the egg doesn't seem to be affected at all. Not getting any different flavors. It seems a bit off. That could just be, I mean, it's still not setting all the way. So I don't know what's going on there, but so far it doesn't make a difference. So freezing an egg white, taking it out, throwing it on the counter for an hour or two, letting it thaw, and then going to whip it is not going to change the results. But last but not least, we have the one that's still partially frozen. It's kind of loose in there now because egg whites thaw. That's kind of gross. Can you whip an egg yolk? It does seem a little solid. I'm hoping by putting in there first, dumping the stuff on top, doing the dry shake, that's going to determine, because it's not going to want to whip when it's cold, but maybe, just maybe, and I'm thinking there may be a small benefit. Your shaker seals because as it gets cold, it forces the metal to contract and it kind of creates a seal. That is why dry shaking can be so treacherous, because there's no cold, because there's no ice, there's no seal, and so as you're shaking, it's very likely that the shaker is more likely to pop off, especially when you're working with a sour, because you're creating a foam that's creating air pressure, making it want to blow up even more than usual. So I'm wondering if by freezing it first, it'll cool it down just enough to actually create a seal and begin the final product, and then add in the ice and finish diluting it in the final whip. So we'll see. Not supposed to do that, but who's gonna stop me? You? That one was shaking it. This is definitely getting colder, which makes sense. The other ones were, you know, not frozen. So this one definitely feels colder, and I could kind of hear the big puck in there moving around. I am probably going to have a fun night because I live alone, got no one to invite over, and I have 3 whiskey sours. And I don't like wasting alcohol. Maybe I should, I don't know, freeze this for tomorrow's breakfast smoothie. I do love egg white foams on my drinks. It adds such a nice, unique texture element, and if I bothered to garnish these, it would also have a really cool, because once you have some kind of foam on top, you really can't, you know, do the thing where you put the bitters down and then trace a toothpick through it to kind of draw a little design. And besides eggs, I mean, there are probably a few other things you get the foam, like especially if you use like whipped cream, but it is unique. All right, so like the second one, not the first one. And you know, let me check something. These are large eggs. I don't know. There's a small chance that the original. Well, no, because these first two came from the same carton. So never mind. I was gonna say that maybe the last carton that I had slightly smaller eggs, which is why the foam was less. But then these two should have then these two, oh yeah, no, that does make sense, because this is from the fresh one. So maybe these are bigger eggs, but let's see. Yeah, tastes just like the others. Again, possibly too much lemon. And maybe not characteristic enough of a bourbon. Bourbon could definitely work in this. Like Woodford Reserve comes through much clearer, which is what I used last time. Like I said, I usually go with a rye because I'm more of a rye person when it comes to cocktails. I don't know. But to answer the question, yes, you can freeze egg whites and use them in your drinks. And you don't even need to let them sit out for very long. Take it up, put it on the counter, get your other ingredients, measure them out, and in a couple minutes, bam. Maybe not even a couple minutes, because like I said, it thawed out so fast when I was dry shaking it that that's probably not even a variable for having them frozen. As long as it's loose enough in the cup that it could pop itself out, I think this will be just fine. Well, there you have it. There's the experiment. Something that's been pondering in the back of my mind for a while. I can't remember, but I knew that when I put the egg whites in there, for whatever reason, maybe I was making a loaf of bread, that I wanted to come back and try this out. So I definitely learned something that doesn't matter, apparently. I was wondering if there'd be some kind of wild variable, maybe I found a new preference. But hey, you know, it is a good thing that as long as they're stored properly, egg whites will foam indefinitely. So you don't have to worry about using them right then and there or wasting them. You can hang on to them. And if you have a whole bunch of egg whites because you're obsessed with yolks, or you like to do your prairie oysters without the whites, because everyone does prairie oysters, obviously. No, this is good. Okay, so that was fun. I hope that we all learned something. I hope everyone had a good time. That's about all I got, so just follow for more, and if you guys have any ideas for what you'd like to see next, let me know. Until then, ciao.